Well, hello there. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie getting underway here on EWTN Radio. I'm Jerry Escher, along with Debbie Georgiani and you, and we've got the show team in place, Michael, Rich, and Ryan. And we are looking forward to a spirited conversation with you about the existence of God. Debbie, today we're going to ask people if they have ever doubted the existence of God.
A spirited conversation. Well put, Jerry.
Yeah.
Huh?
That just came out.
It did, yeah. That's interesting. Okay, so let me read to you, dear listeners, our Take Two family, what we put on take2show.com. It says, have you always believed in God? Were there times in your life, possibly during a personal crisis, that you doubted God's existence? When we experience or witness a traumatic event, it may be very easy to start questioning our own belief in God. Our thoughts are part of the journey, and God knows that. So if you've struggled with doubt about God, please call in and let's talk about it. Here's the number, 833-288-3986.
Yeah, maybe you've always found it easy to believe in God, and you would like to share how, you've never really had any of those little doubts creep into your head. But maybe there was a time when that belief faltered a little bit, or maybe when it faltered completely. Maybe you walked away from God for a period of time in your life, and you'd like to share maybe some of the things that happened in your life to bring you back to faith in Him. Has God revealed Himself to you in a particularly special way to reinforce your belief in His existence? The number again is 833-288-3986.
This happens quite frequently, Jerry, and you probably know this, but just because we have a lot of new listeners and people joining the conversation, these topics that we put forth on our show calendar and we tackle together as a Take Two family, they usually come to us from our listeners. They'll say this is what they encountered. And so we take a look at it, we pray about it, and then we want to dive deeper. And hopefully we're a little bit changed with a better understanding of ourselves, the world around us, and hopefully closer to God. But I just wanted to share this, Jerry, because oftentimes, I'm sure you've heard this before. I've heard this quite frequently in ministry, where people will encounter things like a child that dies, children with cancer, things like that. And they'll say, where's God in all this? Where is God? If God really existed, how could He let these innocent children die well before their time? Have you heard that quite frequently in your ministry work? I have.
Oh yeah, I think it's very common. There are all kinds of circumstances when we kind of cry out for God and wonder if He's there. And I think sometimes some of these instances are, Debbie, the saints talk about God kind of withdrawing His presence from certain people who are trying to make progress along the spiritual path. So love to hear from anybody who maybe you've got a good faith life, you're a regular a receiver of the sacraments, you've got a regular prayer life, and yet you are going through or have gone through some kind of a period where you're just like, God, where are you? Does God even exist? And those are the moments, Debbie, when we have to really push through. I mean, we are going on faith and the intellectual notion of faith in God versus any kind of feelings or consolations at that point.
Right. Please call in and share your experience of your faith in God, your belief in God. We want to talk about it. 833-288-3986. Jerry, I've had a lot of girlfriends actually tell me, they'll say things to me like, Debbie, is this how it happens? I'm doing everything right. I'm getting closer to God. I have a really vibrant prayer life. I'm very dedicated. I never miss Mass. I go to adoration, and it seems like everything is horrible around me. And I'm watching some of my friends who they don't believe in God, and it's like all these blessings are happening to them. What's the matter? Doesn't God like me? It's kind of. It almost becomes, and I don't want to make light of it, but it almost becomes a little comical because it seems like it happens to so many of us. And which saint was it that said? Was it Catherine of Siena? Help me out with this, Jerry. That said it was something in prayer to Jesus. Said, now I see why you don't have any friends, or something like that.
I think that I've heard that attributed to Saint Teresa of Avila when she was
okay.
bucked off a horse.
Okay. Okay,
If
so
I
it's
have
Saint.
the story right, yeah.
We'd have to look it up, but isn't that so true though? So the saints even, kind of question that, saying, "What's the deal, God? We're trying to be faithful, we're trying to be good. So shouldn't the blessings flow from that? Why are all these other people seem to get the blessings?" Right?
Yeah, and here's something too. I'd love to have, think about this. Maybe you are someone who believes in God. You've always had that belief, and you've pondered, you've speculated, you've prayed, you've even asked God to reveal to you why me and not that person or that person. Maybe you know people who don't have belief in God. They say, "Oh no, that's just for those of you who need a crutch or something." You know, it's amazing. The phrase, Debbie, "But for the grace of God go I." And I've done that once in a while. I've just stopped and meditated and pondered, and I thought, God, why did you choose to? Well, I guess He gives everyone the potential, the gift of faith. We have to receive it and be open to it. But it's sad to me, Debbie. It's really, really, honestly sad in a very real way, not in a judgmental way, but it's just sad in a real way when there are people who, for whatever reasons, have not yet assented to believing in the existence of God.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've told this story before, but I'll share it again because we're always growing the Take Two family. Do you remember? I told you the story, Jerry, about my two sons. My son was driving age, and he was about 18, and my younger son was almost 12, and they were driving to California from Arizona to see our relatives, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, and they were driving there. It was about 6.5 hour drive, Jerry, something of that nature. Anyway, so they were driving, and my younger son said to my older son, he said he was questioning the existence of God. And my older son at the time was trying to be, kind of the apologist, if you will, and trying to get into apologetics and defending the faith and everything. And then he says, "We just need we just need to pray. There's going to be a sign." And as they're driving, now mind you, folks, it's going from Arizona to California, a lot of desert stretch, okay? And they see a gigantic billboard, and all it says is "Believe." That's all it says. So my son goes, "See, I told you." Wow. There's the sign.
Beautiful. Well, maybe God has shown Himself to you in some beautiful, beautiful way, maybe to bolster your faltering faith. Share with us at 833-288-3986.
The Reason for Our Hope with Father Larry Richards.
The talents that God has given you, have you multiplied them? Have you used them for His glory or for your glory? Have you used the gifts of the God of the universe for Him? Have you multiplied those gifts, or have you buried them? Life isn't over yet. If you haven't been using them, it's time. Make a decision that not one of those gifts are wasted, that you use them and you multiply them, because that's what's important, huh? Have you been a man of love? Do your wife and children know that you love them? Do you tell them that? When they look at you and they look in your eyes, what do they see when they look in your eyes? What do they see? Do they see a man of love? Do they see a man of love? Because again, as St. John the Cross said, in the end, we will be judged in love.
All people are called to communion with Christ in the church that He founded.
People really gravitate to David Anders and his concern for the callers.
Tom and I are both converts. We've walked that path, and we try to walk it with the listeners at whatever stage of the journey they're on.
It's EWTN's go-to source for non-Catholics, converts, and answer seekers.
Call to Communion TV with Dr. David Anders, Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Television.
This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. Inviting your calls. We have several to get to here in a moment. We do have an open phone line at 833-288-3986 talking about, have you ever doubted the existence of God, or do you know someone who does, or maybe you went through that period and God has somehow brought you back. Share, what are the circumstances to help to kind of reinforce or jumpstart your faith, if you will. And I want to mention, too, another program, Conversations with Consequences. Airs 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturdays. It's the voice of the Catholic Association, offering a weekly hour of thoughtful dialogue with the leading thinkers of our time on the most consequential issues of our day. The women of the Catholic Association host an engaging conversation with leading thinkers and influencers, and they include Dr. Grazie Christie. She's a practicing radiologist. Andrea Picciotti-Bayer, an experienced civil rights appellate lawyer. Maureen Ferguson, a legislative affairs and pro-life expert. And Ashley McGuire, a well-regarded author. And they're also moms to many and faithful Catholic women. So join us, Conversations with Consequences, 5 p.m. Eastern on many of these same EWTN stations.
I absolutely love our Take Two family. They constantly keep us on our toes and just say such affirming and encouraging words. Our dear friend, Kathy, she weighed in and she said, believe. That is her word as well. So I love that. Way to go, Kathy. And then G weighed in and was doing just to clarify, it is St. Teresa of Avila. You were right, Jerry. And it goes something like
cool.
this. What'd you say? I'm sorry.
I said, cool.
Oh, I thought you said something really
profound. You said
profound.
I got it right. I said, cool.
Okay.
No, that's
Okay.
so rare. You know that.
Yeah. And so G said that she thinks it was a carriage accident and she fell in the mud. And then she said to God, if this is how you treat your friends, no wonder you have so few. So
right.
There you go.
Yeah, that's what I recall. Yeah.
Yeah, you were right. It looks like Tammy just dropped from Pennsylvania. Tammy, please call back. Please call back. We really want to talk to you. You have something very, very important to share with all of us. So Tammy, please call back from Pennsylvania. Ryan will put you at the head of the line. Okay.
Well, she was at the head of the line, so she will go right back to that spot if she calls back. But we have Paul next in Worcester, Massachusetts, listening on AM 1230 Emmanuel Radio, and a first-time caller to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Hi, Paul. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for the kind welcome, and I so much enjoy your show. Blessings to all. Good day. I had a question, please. If anyone, either one of you, could kindly educate me as to if you've gotten this question from anyone else in the past. I was raised to answer to someone asking me a question in a certain way. And the question is when I hear, as was discussed earlier, someone say, I wish I could be closer to God. Well, I was taught to always say you can never really do much to be closer to God. The Lord is always there for us and with us. And the best thing we can do is just be open to His grace. And I'm just wondering if I'm responding in the proper way.
Jerry, would you like to go first?
Yeah, you're advising. Clarify that for me again, just a little bit, Paul. Is this advice you're giving to other people, like just be open to God's grace, people who don't believe in Him or who are atheists or what have you?
No, it's actually someone who's saying, I wish I could just do a little bit more to be closer to God, as close to the Lord as I could get. And I was kind of raised to be taught to say, well, you cannot really do much to reach that 100%. Because the Lord is already there 100% for us, and the best thing we can do is just be open to His grace. And I'm just wondering if the logic is there from my standpoint and how I'm responding to others.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I think if I understand the spiritual life, correctly, it's kind of a two-pronged, enterprise, if you will. We must do certain things like spend time in prayer, spend time with God, receive the sacraments, follow the commandments, help the poor and so forth. We need to do certain things. Not that we earn our salvation, but that is our way of saying to God, God, I believe in you. You have given me this mission, this life on earth to help, touch other people's lives and hopefully bring other people closer to you. And then the other side of that is really sometimes people say it all depends on God as well. And so, I think if I was listening to the tail end of Jonette Williams' show, Women of Grace, she had Father Peter John Cameron on right before this show, and he emphasized the importance of just being still, just being quiet. And, we sometimes think that prayer has to be a lot of talking, a lot of words on our part, but prayer is also not just listening to God, but just simply sitting in the presence of God, whether that's in a church, whether that's in our car when we're driving to work, a special room that we have at home. So I think there are a lot of things that go into this. I don't know if there's just any one sort of magical answer, Paul. What do you think?
I think that's wonderful advice from Father. What I'm going to try to do is listen to God, and when that person is talking with their own questions, I'm going to try and listen to them a little bit closer as well, and just accept them for their the way that they believe.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and God speaks in a million different ways. Debbie, you know that. Go ahead. I know you've got a thought or two for Paul.
Well, the way I've in religious education, Paul, the way we've always addressed this, and like Jerry said, there's various angles to this and approaches, but it is a relationship. It is a relationship. So a relationship goes both ways. And so there's times of rest, and it's like the Martha and Mary. Okay, there's times of doing, there's times of being, and there's special times when God fills us with certain things, and it allows us to grow closer to Him. We were made, we are created, we were made to know, love, and serve God. That is a relationship. That is an absolute relationship. So there is an action or a desire or an intention on our part as well. Not necessarily just coming one way from God to us. But I just want to say one thing. I cannot recall the name of it. So please forgive me, Paul. If you want to email us, take2@EWTN.com. I will happily research it after the show and put the name on. But it's Pope Benedict wrote an incredible teaching on made for greatness. In the Bible where it says we were made for greatness, so many people interpret that as, oh, well, see, I was made for greatness. That's like a feather in our cap. We're going to be so great. It actually talks about us expanding with a sense of love and how much we can expand. And then that's the greatness. It's God's greatness we get to experience here on earth and for eternity. It's a very interesting explanation that Pope Benedict gives, and he's just an incredible writer when he's professing the faith. But I just wanted to emphasize that part as well. I would happily give you the letter that he wrote, and I think it would really just kind of fill in the gaps, if you will. Paul, what do you think?
Oh, wonderful. I will do so. And if I could just share just a humorous note, I'm a layman yet approved volunteer. I visit nursing homes just to speak to people unrelated to me, but who just don't get any visits from family, and they miss going to church. And I was corrected the other day when I said to a very wonderful old woman, 93, and suffering semi from dementia, and she said, she asked me, did I pray today? I said, of course, I pray every day. And she said, well, then which verse did you read? And I said, what do you mean? And she says, prayer is reading the good book every day. You cannot just pray. You need to read the verses. I thought that was wonderful.
It sure is. Yeah, praying the scriptures. When we pick up a Bible, we can just read. It could be just a bunch of letters and words, or it could be something that we read and let it have an impact on our lives and let it really change us, let it soak in, let God speak to us through the scripture. Can be also very, very healing. As Debbie, we know that our mutual friend, we've been to some healing masses with him, Father Bobby Emperor, always says, read the scriptures out loud, and it has a very powerful healing effect. So thank you, Paul. In Worcester, we appreciate hearing from you, getting us started on our phone calls here today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Blessings to you, too. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Paul. Another shout out to Tammy. Tammy, please, if you can call back and share with us. We want to listen to your story and talk about it from Pennsylvania. You're a first-time caller, so another shout out to you if you can call back. Ryan, it's Michael McCall, I believe, who's call screening today. Michael McCall will put you right at the front of the line because you were actually first up initially on Take Two. Okay, moving to Kurt. Kurt is in Massachusetts on the Station of the Cross. Hi, Kurt. Welcome.
How are you? How are you, Debbie? I would like to say, basically, you kind of summed it up. To know, to love, and to serve. And if you look at a crucifix, he knows the Father. He serves him because he does what the Father asks of him. And he loves him because he put himself on a cross. He denied his own will. And we have to look at our own fallen nature because God so loved the world that he gave us his only Son. He gave us perfection. To know us in every way, shape, and form except for sin. So I think when we when we accept the faith, we have to also accept the healing remedy of it, meaning all the pain in your life is going to be transformed and it's going to resurrect you if you follow Christ's teaching. And as a convert, I've been trying to do that, and of course, that's why I go to confession regularly, at least once a month, probably twice a month. And if you notice, especially with this pandemic, I can also look at it as saying, you look at Our Lady of Fatima, she said communism, if it's not taken care of, it's going to spread its errors. And isn't it ironic? It actually came from a communist country. But we'll let that go. But we notice we're being stripped of everything that the world has to offer, even the sacraments. So we have to look at this and say, I offer it up, but, you have to teach me how to deal with this and to have faith. And this is what I try to do. I say my rosary. I say other things. But you see all these people that are around you, like Protestants come up to me. I used to be Protestant, Okay, we're all Christian. I says, well, if that's the case, we should all believe in transubstantiation, but we don't. We have to understand that Christ became flesh, yes, the first time, but he becomes flesh in the sacrament. And we have to understand this because there's a lot of modernistic thought out there that breaks this all down and waters it down. And when you were talking about Teresa of Avila, she was in a cart. It was in Spain, it was raining, and she fell out of the cart. And she looked up to heaven and said, if this is what you do to your friends, no wonder you have so few of them. But that's our human nature. And I think the more we ask God for help with our weaknesses, the more we can see that when we have to deal with others, myself, I'm dealing with a family member, let's just say, who's been in the throes of drug addiction and coming in and out of it for many, couple of decades. I'm raising my grandson, so on and so forth. But you have to look at all this as being redemptive. If we use the faith the way it's portrayed, the way it's been for centuries, we have to look at it in that light, especially now with a lot of liberalism out there, and that's all I have to say.
Well, that's a lot, Kurt, and thank you so much for your inspiring words. Welcome home. You didn't say how long it's been since you converted to Catholicism, but welcome home to the fullness of the Christian faith, and God bless you for taking care of your grandson the way that you're doing. And I think to me, as you're talking, I was listening, and it all boils down to, there's this great book by Thomas à Kempis, and maybe you've heard of it. A lot of people have it. It's called The Imitation of Christ. And isn't that what our life... Pardon me?
Oh, yeah, I've read it many times.
Okay. Yeah, so
I've been a convert for 28 years.
Oh, 28 years. Okay, fantastic. Well, that book, I would encourage anyone to get The Imitation of Christ. Think about it. We are called to be Christ-like. What does that mean? Well, it means to mirror his life in many very important and sometimes even painful ways. We have to go through our own agony in the garden. We have to go through our own scourging at the pillar. We have to go through our own crowning with thorns, carrying our own cross. And ultimately, we have to die to ourselves. I heard a priest say one time, dying to self is not fatal. Okay, dying to self is not fatal. In fact, it's life-giving. And so when we do these things, when we take on the seriousness of the Christian life and model our lives, Debbie, totally after Jesus Christ and the pattern of his life, that is where freedom comes. That's where freedom, healing, restoration, and ultimately eternal life come from.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that. And Kurt, I just want to say I agree with Jerry. I want to also extend welcome home. I know 28 years. That's a long time ago, but still, welcome home. And thank you for your words and your thoughts of what it means for us to be a Christian in today's world. I've been saying this for a couple years. We are lacking heroes in this world. Just turn on the news, go to any station you want, just read the newspaper. We're lacking heroes. And I really believe that some of the things that we are going through is going to raise up heroes, true Christian heroes that are going to be able to know when to act and when to listen. And I think it could actually be through prayer, if we really, really take on prayer and fasting and everything else we've been talking about here on Take Two, and we do it together and we storm heaven. I believe these heroes will emerge. I really do. And so I have a great hope that what's going to come out of this. I know it looks really dark right now and it looks difficult and it looks like very painful, but I think in the end it could actually be a real positive for us. Thank you, Kurt. What do you think, Jerry?
I agree with everything that you said, and very inspiring. Kurt, thank you. You were an inspiration too, brother. Please keep listening, and do call us again anytime here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Have you ever doubted the existence of God? 833-288-3986.
Mother Angelica.
We have to get back into our hearts and minds the value of life. If you don't care about the unborn, I don't think you're going to care about the elderly.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
It's time for Family Man with Dr. Gregory Popchak.
You've heard it said that children are resilient, but it turns out that's not as true as we might like to think. A study in the journal Clinical Neuroimaging reports that children who experienced common family stressors like a lack of affection, marital problems, or poor communication experienced less development in the brain regions responsible for impulse control and stress regulation than did children who were raised in homes without similar stressors. The study's a wake-up call for moms and dads to attend to marriage and parenting struggles promptly. Currently, many couples wait 4 to 6 years before getting professional help. Knowing the effect that marriage and family stress has on our children's developing brains can hopefully encourage parents to get help sooner rather than later. To encourage good impulse control and stress management in our kids, the most important parenting technique is providing our children with a loving, affectionate, peaceful home life. I'm Dr. Greg Popchak, but you can call me Family Man.
To discover more ways faith can enrich your life, visit CatholicCounselors.com.
He is honored by the Church as a saint with the title of the Angelic Doctor.
Matthew Bunson and the Doctors of the Church.
St. Thomas Aquinas wrote a basic textbook for young theology students that became the Church's most famous guide to the faith, the Summa Theologica. It helped him earn the title Doctor of the Church. He died in 1274.
For more about the Doctors of the Church, visit doctorsofthechurch.com.
I'm Gloria Purvis.
And I'm Deacon Harold. The Morning Glory team asks, how do we talk to fallen away Catholics?
Tomorrow morning, 7 Eastern. Now back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Great to have you with us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. You know, God doesn't need our belief in his existence to exist. He simply is existence, but it could be a little bit of a struggle sometimes for people to come around to faith in the existence of God, and that could be due to a lot of different circumstances. And we're talking about that today here on the program with you, the Take Two family, at 833-288-3986. And we want to get right back to the busy phones here. We're going to Syracuse, New York. Jim, listening on Sirius XM 130, and a first-time caller to the program. Hi, Jim. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good, Jim. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I just wanted to call and briefly say I think it's very normal and healthy when in a crisis in your life you doubt God and you say, where are you? Do you really even exist? But through prayer and reflection, I've come to realize that the answer doesn't lie within me, but God is all around me. And so many people have said to me, you're an inspiration to me. Everybody has their cross to bear. And when somebody bears it with grace and dignity, you're an inspiration to them. And I've found in my life that there are other people that I now look to who have much greater issues that they're dealing with. And they're actually an inspiration to me. And so it's the people that you come together with, that you pray with, that you come to know as friends. Their God is looking right at you, maybe in the next pew or the next seat, wherever. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say, is that I think it's a blessing to be able to bear your cross.
And to be inspiring to others by how you conduct your life, and that is a witness to others, and it's edifying in so many ways. And when the interactions happen, and you can actually learn more about what others go through, and you can try to understand it better in a deeper way. Jim, what you said though, I want to just have you maybe just slightly look at it from another angle and tell me if this is okay with you. I totally agree that it is it's a normal thing, part of our sense of questioning things when something doesn't feel right or look right to us based on our own personal experience. Okay, what we have, how we view it. But when where the danger could possibly be is if a person is not surrounded by a supportive, believing a circle around them, okay, of people and people they trust, if they're not supported with like-minded people, that's where it could go from being a healthy, slight doubt of God to where people take it to the next level. So let me give you an example. A traumatic experience or a crisis happens with somebody. People naturally go into, where's God in all this? Okay. Typically, there are people around you that you trust that support, okay, and try to walk you through or help you process these feelings. I've also seen it go the opposite way, where it was like an excuse for people to say, "See, I told you. I've been telling you for years. God doesn't exist," and then it goes to a negative, a real destructive phase. Jerry, would you clean up my mess here? What I was trying to say, you know where I'm going with this, and then ask Jim if has he thought of it that way.
Well, yeah, I think what you're trying to say is something I actually thought of this as well, Jim, as you were talking. I think a healthy sort of asking yourself, is this really what I believe? Do I really believe this is true? Maybe revisiting that from time to time, hopefully with the purpose of saying, a more and more solid yes every time. I think Debbie's right. I mean, there are many, many people who question their faith, and then maybe their faith isn't that strong, their prayer life hasn't been that solid or whatever, and they sort of think their way right out of a relationship with God or out of a belief in God's existence. So right. I don't know, can you speak from your own experience, Jim? I mean, you're talking about this healthy asking, if God exists and do I believe that? Is that something that you go through occasionally or have gone through at any point yourself?
Yeah, I've always believed. I've always practiced. So I can understand what you're saying because the foundation was there for me. But given a few weeks to a few months to live, and now it's almost 4 years later. There were times during the recovery, during the treatment, still are, because it's a long process, where I don't have them so much now. I had the opportunity to speak to a confessor about it, and if you don't have that, I can see where it could go very south on you very quickly. You have to have people around you that you trust, people could speak to, especially a spiritual person, like a confessor, a priest. And, I just was at a point one time when they were wheeling me into an emergency room for the fourth weekend in a row, and I would say, "Where are you? Why?" And for me, I believe, and I see it in so many other people now who are in worse conditions than myself, that some people are given a cross to bear so that they can bear that cross and be an inspiration to others. But if you don't, and people are inspirations to me, that I see them bearing their cross. But if you don't have the faith in the first place, and you don't have a good foundation, well, I could see, it could go south. It could go very bad. I saw when I was in the hospital a big sign on the door, no pastoral care. So, and I had another guy who said to me one day, how is it that you can be so happy? How is it that you can be so upbeat? You have the same thing as me. And he was very, very sick. And he said, he asked the nurses if he could talk to me. And I said, yes. And he said, I haven't practiced my faith. I'm a Catholic. And I haven't practiced in years. Do you think God hears my prayers? And I said, oh, I know he does. He's just waiting for you to open that door. Well, I told him about the picture of God standing on the outside, no doorknob. He has, you have control. And a friend of mine bought him the picture. And we saw him months later looking much better, feeling much better, doing much better. And he said to me, I'm going to have my transplant in a little bit. And I said to my wife, we have to bring that picture with us. So, I don't know.
Well, Jim, one thing I think is coming through with what you're saying here, and I think this is a very, very real circumstance for many people, and that is there can be sort of a clash. A lot of people who might believe in God and practice a certain faith, a Christian faith, what have you, when suffering enters into the picture, when that cross enters into the picture, that can lead people one of two ways, I guess. With you, it sounds like it led you, much closer to God, and thanks be to God, you were there to be the instrument, the tool that God used, that beautiful person that God used to help this other gentleman who had that same illness. But, a lot of people can say, you know what, no, God would not allow this suffering, or some people would say, God is all-powerful, I know he can heal me, but he's not, and so it can drive people away. So it's a two-way street sometimes there, but Jim, you've shared a lot of wonderful things with us here on the program today, and we pray that you are well, you will continue to be well, and you will listen to the program and not be a first-time caller again next time we hear from you. Thanks, Jim in Syracuse. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Jim. And as Jim was speaking, Jerry, I wanted to say that a great example I would just like to share again that we all know of is our children going off to college. Okay, so many of our kids go off to college for the first year, and we send them off with a great foundational understanding and relationship with God, and they come back by Christmas time and they are doubting God and then and starting to say, I'm not even sure I ever believed. How does that happen? Well, because it's not being reinforced on the campuses. You see it, they're being surrounded. So there's something right there that it could be a natural, normal way of growing and learning and even questioning things, real critical thinking, everything, but it's being reinforced in a very destructive way. Right, Jerry?
Yeah, that is one of the saddest stories that we hear, but how often and how quickly, like you said, even sometimes by the first semester break that they come home, this faith that parents thought was pretty vibrant and alive, and maybe they were involved in youth group and served maybe altar servers and regular mass attendees and helped the poor and feed the homeless and so forth. These kids can sometimes it doesn't take very, very long, and that's really sad. So yeah, we need to be making sure that they have the resources to take with them, when they head off to campuses, and also when they get there, there are oftentimes focus missionaries. There are Newman centers. Yeah, they really need to plug into those things that are going to help keep them on the right path.
Absolutely. It's important who we surround ourselves with, and we have to be supported in the faith. Okay, Tammy did call back. Tammy, thank you so much. We were waiting, hoping, and praying, and you responded from Pennsylvania. First-time caller. Welcome to Take Two, Tammy.
Thank you. Good to talk to you.
Likewise. Go right ahead.
Well, I've just started recently listening to the program, and I'm kind of at an unusual point, I think, in my faith life at this point. I lost my 15-year-old son, and it was just 7 years ago, the beginning of June. And that just rocked me to my core. It just, I wanted nothing to do with religion. I was angry at God. Even now when I pray, I say, we're not friends. You know, I still can't be friends with you, and then I proceed to talk about what I feel I need to talk to. So I'm just kind of at a pivotal point. I don't know. I mean, recently I've become more interested in kind of taking a back seat, listening a little bit, listening to other people's stories, their experiences. I don't know. I feel like maybe there's a door starting to open again for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
well, Tammy, look at it this way. You were the first caller today. You are a first-time caller. The call dropped. We asked you to call back. We felt very, very strong about that. Both Jerry and I, we felt that Tammy needed to be heard. Okay, why did that happen? That's the Holy Spirit. That's the Holy Spirit at work. You opened a little crack in the door, Tammy, and look what already happened. And that's how much the good Lord, that's how much the good Lord loves you. Okay? Burying a child, that should never have to be endured by a parent. Never. That's not in our mindset as parents. That's not the part of the equation. We never think of that. We never want that, and we certainly we do everything to avoid that happening. And when it does happen, it breaks us. It's like a piece of us dies, or a large part of us dies along with that child. I do a lot of grief and grief support work, Tammy. So I would never want to. I hope I don't want to minimize what you've been through. You've been through a feeling of hell. That's what it feels like. That's what people used to tell us all the time in grief support. It feels like hell. It doesn't feel right. Something's wrong. Right. Okay. But I just want to say one thing. Your heart is so precious. Look how you said, to God, I'm not friends with you right now. I'm not. We're not going to be friends. Okay. But you're still connecting. It's the beauty of that, Tammy. I'm going to pray, and I hope and pray that you can continue to pursue that path, because it's showing that deep within your spirit, deep within your heart, you are longing for that understanding of this and the connection back with God. And I want you to have that. My heart breaks for you. Was this your only child, and did you have preparation time before he passed, or was this sudden?
No, I have three girls that were older than him. He was the baby and my only boy. And no, there was no preparation. It was I went to work one morning, and he had skipped 2 grades, so his friends were he was 15, and his friends were all 17 and 18 because they were the kids in his classes. And he went to one of his friend's house, and the friend was shooting an airsoft gun, and the friend picked it up, and it discharged and hit my son in the chest, and he was gone before I even got to the hospital. So and I was angry. I distinctly remember when the pastor came over to make the preparations and stuff and I flat out told him, I said, I do not want to hear God needed him more, there was a reason. I don't want to hear any of those platitudes, because right now I am so angry I can't see straight. And it took me, that grief came out in anger in so many ways. It negatively impacted my relationship greatly with my middle daughter, which is still being repaired. But I was just angry. I lashed out at everybody over nothing. And it took me a long time before I was able to talk to God again. And when I did, I just started and then just said, look, you're not friends. I'm still very angry and hurt, and I don't understand. And I've at least opened that door, and I've had friends say to me, well, you can't tell God that you're not friends with him. And then I said, but the God that I believe in understands my pain and understands why I am feeling this way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely, Tammy. Yeah. Go ahead, Jerry. Why don't you comment? Because Tammy's saying some very important things.
You are. And no matter how this might have happened, it would be a big blow to you and to your family and those who knew your son. But the fact that this was completely accidental and avoidable, and just sounds like one of those fluke things. I mean, that has to also drive some of the emotions that you have experienced and maybe still are experiencing right now, including the anger. But I hear in your heart, in your voice, in your heart, Tammy, that you want to move to a better place with God, where you're friends again, so to speak. You know that God is waiting for you there, and you've never lost that connection with him. You've never cut that tie, and that's the beautiful thing. And, I remember one time saying in my life, God, I'm going to go off in this direction. Please don't let go of me. And I wouldn't advise anyone doing that. But God understands, like you said, when we acknowledge him, when we say, I believe in you, but, whatever that but is, God is able to kind of absorb that and say, you know what, I'm not only here for you now, I'm always going to be here for you. And I know that the entire Take Two family, Tammy, is going to be praying for your heart to receive more and more healing with every passing day. And I know, Debbie, you might want to ask if we can put Tammy. We have a book that Debbie keeps names in of living and deceased, and first names only. If you're comfortable giving us your son's first name, we will. I'm sure Debbie's already put you in the book.
I did.
And your family, but we could certainly add your son's first name if you're comfortable with that, Tammy.
Of course, that's one thing that I've noticed is the sound of his name is music. People are like, I don't want to talk about it if it upsets you. And yeah, I'm on the verge of tears every time I talk about it. Mm-hmm. But his name was Ty.
His name, Ty. I love it. I love it. His name is Ty, and that's how we will pray and hold prayers all around you and lift you so that you can, like Jerry said, walk through those stages of healing, Tammy, and then and that door, before you know it, it gets bigger and bigger. It's a little crack and you see a little light, but then it gets bigger and bigger. Before you know it, you may never ever take away all of the really sad feelings that you feel all the time. Okay. But you'll be filled with so much more of God's presence that you can really kind of reach out and touch it. And so that's what we're going to pray for you. And take time. You don't have to rush it with God. Sometimes we want all of it right away. You don't have to do that, Tammy. You're a special person, and I'm sure you are a great mom, and God knows that, and He knows how to just. Jerry and I always talk about baby stepping. We baby step our whole ministry career, our baby step our life. It is so important. We don't have to rush. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Okay, so we're with you in prayer. Please stay in touch with us. If you want to talk more, you can always email us at take2@EWTN.com, okay?
Okay, I do have to say one more thing before I go. I definitely think that I've been blessed with 2 more grandchildren since my son's passed. Mm-hmm. And the youngest grandson is named after his uncle. And just having that youth and enthusiasm and that wonder for life, I feel myself more able to sit quietly and think about my relationship with God, or where it is right now, where do I want it to go? Mm-hmm. And I attributed a lot of that to grandbabies.
Yeah. Yeah, it breathes a new sense of life. It's a new generation. It's a breathing of that life, and that's a beautiful thing. I would absorb all of it, Tammy. Absorb all of it. If you ever feel like you're ready, spending time in adoration in front of the Blessed Sacrament and just sharing from your heart how hurt you are and how angry you are, it actually ends up helping to build the relationship you have with God. Jerry, you could speak on that all the time when you were going through a really hard time in your life, Jerry.
Yeah, you don't have to say anything. Sometimes there are no words, but you just sit there and be with God and let God do the ministering to you. And we're going to pray again, as you said, Tammy, for that. And we appreciate your call. I echo what Debbie said. Feel free to email us anytime. The email address is take2, and I think it works with the word 2 or the number 2, either one, take2@EWTN.com. And you got the whole listening family surrounding you with prayer, Tammy, so thank you for your phone call, and God bless you. Just want to note, too, real quickly here, a lot of ways to carry EWTN with you everywhere you go. When you download the EWTN app, you can enjoy it live. They have the live TV, live radio stream, audio and video on demand, EWTN news, program schedule, so much more. So download the EWTN app at EWTNapps.com.
Okay, we only have about 2 minutes, but we wanted to get to Andrea in Yakima, Washington. First-time caller. Is it Andrea or Andrea? Welcome.
Hi, it's Andrea.
Okay. Hi, Andrea. We only have 2 minutes, so
Hi.
sorry.
Okay. That's okay. I never call radio stations, but I just wanted to speak to the loss of faith. In 2018, I was in the middle of my RCIA process, and actually on another one of my classes, I got a phone call from my mom that they had just called the police. A person had broken into my mom's house and tied up my mom and raped and twisted. And in the process of all of the CIA and all that stuff, it really made me question why, when I'm working to get closer to God, would something so tragic and terrible happen to my children? Because my 16-year-old was there at the time as well. And we've spent the last 2 years in this process. They caught the person. We're still going through court, but as a person of faith, I've been a Christian since I was 7, but trying to walk my children through this trauma that doesn't make any sense and trying to explain to them why God would let something like this happen or those kinds of things, and talking about the different concepts of free will and things like that.
Right. Okay. So Andrea, I have to share this real quickly. We have a lot of callers on, and we're running out of time. And your specific story, traumatic story that happened to your mom, we need to talk about it some more. So we just made an executive decision. We're going to do a part 2 tomorrow. If you can, Andrea, can you be the first caller back, and we will dive into this much deeper so that we can see the aspects of going through this trauma. Our hearts are breaking for you, Andrea. It's just terrible. And here you're in the RCIA, and now it's like, how do you make sense of this? Please, Andrea, call back. Frank as well, Robbie as well. Jerry, we've got to do a part 2.
Well, that we are going to do. So please, those of you who didn't get on, Andrea, we wish we had had more time. You can also email us at take2@EWTN.com. But if your schedules permit, please, Ryan or Michael McCall, whoever screens calls tomorrow, will put you at the beginning of the line. It'll be part 2 of Have You Ever Doubted the Existence of God? That is on Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie. We thank the show team. Thank you, affiliates, and to all of our listeners, have a beautiful and blessed day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
You've heard of the incredible shrinking man? This is Dr. Ray Gurindy. I am the incredible manly shrink. The doctor is in next